If you're the outdoorsy type, unlike me, then you probably already have an SUV or you're thinking about buying one. But there is an alternative. This is the Subaru Outback, and it's a wagon that can do just about everything an SUV can do, but it sits a little bit lower to the ground, and the price is a bit closer to earth as well. But unlike most SUVs, this car was not built for a purely suburban existence. Sure, you can do the school drop-off in it and fill it up full of shopping, but this is really a road trip machine. This is the 6th generation of the Outback, and it's had a few exterior tweaks for 2021, like new headlights, new tail lights, and a bit of extra plastic cladding around the wheel arches to protect the paintwork from chips from rocks and stones. Under the hood is Subaru's traditional boxer engine, 2.5 litres, which outputs 138 kilowatts of power and 245 newton meters of torque. Brake towing capacity is 2,000 kilograms. Now, although this car can sound a little bit like a diesel when you first turn it on in the morning as the engine warms up, it actually runs on regular unleaded. The Outback's got a really big boot, which actually rivals that of some SUVs in size. It's 522 litres and expands to 1,267 with the rear seats down. As I mentioned at the top, this car was built with road tripping in mind, so the interior is chock full of gadgets and little creature comforts to keep you as comfortable as possible behind the wheel for long stretches at a time, and it's really well designed. Good use of materials throughout the cabin as well, with soft touch plastics up the top and a little bit of piano black around the centre console with the gear shifter. We've got some faux leather with some very nice stitching actually all through the cabin, right back here into the centre console with the armrest, and there's a nice deep bin under there as well. The first thing you notice when you get in the Outback is the giant centre console screen. It's 11.6 inches and it looks like Subaru have been inspired by Tesla a little bit because they've actually mounted this screen vertically, and it controls just about every single function in the car, and there's a lot of personalization involved. In fact, when you first get in the car and turn it on, it asks you if you want to set up your own individual profile, and every time you get in the car actually scans your face. There's a little laser light here on the dash that does it, and all of your own presets are then applied to the car. At least that's the theory. It doesn't seem to actually work that well for me. It recognises me, but it doesn't keep any of my settings. So there are a few things that I need to keep on switching on every time I get in the car, like turning the auto vehicle hold on for the traffic lights and the auto stop start, which is a feature that I don't particularly like. But I have to do that every time I get in the car. A little bit annoying. The menu system is really well laid out. There's a good mixture of icons and menus. It's quite simple to follow and fairly intuitive. The navigation system is powered by TomTom, and I do have to say that's the one thing that actually does let the system down a little bit. It's quite laggy and it needs a bit of an update. There's a few no right turns that don't seem to be in the system, and also there's a lot of new tunnels around near where I live, and a lot of those don't seem to be marked on the maps yet. There's also Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and even a CD player. The 9-speaker Harman Kardon sound system is excellent. Sounds really, really good. Climate controls are also run through the center console screen, but there are a couple of shortcut physical buttons here around the bezel, which can quickly allow you to change the temperature, which is good because it means you don't have to take your eyes off the road. That noise you just heard is the system to alert me that there is a speed camera coming up, and it is really loud and really annoying, and I can't work out how to turn it down. It's a little bit of a wet day today, and this car of course has Subaru's all-wheel drive system, but a little bit of wheel slip just then in the wet. It hasn't rained for a while though, and the roads are pretty oily, so we'll give that a pass. There's also the X mode button here on the center console screen, which allows you to change the car's drive mode. There's snow, dirt, deep snow and mud, and normal. Around town, best to leave it in normal. The instrument cluster is hybrid digital, and the 4-inch digital screen in the center actually displays quite a lot of useful information like local speed zones, your current speed, and even the little icon of your car shows when the brake lights are on. There are a lot of buttons on the steering wheel, so you'd probably be wise to sit down and study them before you actually head off on a road trip with this car, because we've got not only the manual gear change controls here on the back of the steering wheel, we've got another row of buttons on both sides underneath, plus buttons on the left-hand side and the right-hand side for the sound system. So it can take a little bit of practice before you can really use all the functionality on the steering wheel without taking your eyes off the road. The Nappa leather seats on this top-of-the-line touring model are extremely comfortable. There's lumbar support, they're heated, full electric adjustment. They are made for a long road trip, and you would get out of this car after being behind the wheel for several hours and probably feel great. It is interesting to drive this car. It does feel like a cross between a wagon and an SUV. You don't quite have the same sort of dynamics that you get in a regular wagon like an Audi or something like that, but it doesn't feel quite as wallowy as an SUV can. So you don't sort of have that top-heavy sort of feeling as you're going around corners. But it does feel like it's a little more firmly sprung than a regular wagon, and as it should be, because this car is designed for a bit of light off-roading. One quirky little feature about this car is how the indicator stalk works. Where normally you put an indicator on and the stalk will lock itself into position and then flick back up once you've gone around a corner, this one doesn't lock down, it just bounces straight back up. And if you don't completely turn a corner or you touch it a little bit too hard, it will just stay on until you manually turn it off. And look, I know it doesn't sound particularly annoying, but it has a completely different feel to it to any other indicator I've ever used, so that takes a little bit of getting used to. While the Outback may not turn as many heads as an SUV from Lamborghini, Porsche or Rolls-Royce, it has a lot of cred with people who want a practical wagon with all of the capabilities of an SUV, and that's exactly what this is, and it does it so well. Starting at just under 40 grand and 47,790 for this top spec touring model, the Outback is fantastically well equipped, practical, and terrific value. And next time I go on a road trip, I'm going to seriously think about taking one of these.